Uh, Settings. Can I do that? Hold
I
on.
think
I want to mirror
so.
my camera so that when I look at you, see, I look
Uh-huh.
at you now. I'm looking at you as opposed to like looking at the window over there. So
Okay. Yeah. So that's the show. It's really fun like we're doing right now. We could go off on tangents like Edith Bunker. We could do a lot of that, but there you go. It's the
okay,
show.
great.
All
All
right.
right,
Are you ready?
I'm ready. You
Okay.
bet.
Let's get started. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Keeping It Real on Purpose. I am your host, Edna White. And today we have an esteemed guest, which I am so happy to have on, that she brings along some brilliance. Today's guest is Dr. Michelle Peticolas. Am I saying it right?
Peticolas.
Peticolas. Okay. An international best-selling author of Step Into Your Brilliance, award-winning filmmaker of Secrets of Life and Death, and a dynamic speaker and life transformation coach. Dr. Michelle is helping high-achieving midlife women who've experienced major loss to release complex grief and reconnect with their soul's purpose. I love it. Through her powerful serve free framework, she guides women to heal, reset their mindset, and step fully into their authentic brilliance. Please welcome the inspiring Dr. Peticolas.
Thank you so much. That was a beautiful introduction.
Oh, you're welcome. So, how do you show up in the world? Tell our audience.
Right now, I'm showing up in the world a lot on podcasts, and I've
Okay.
started really jumping into social media and posting on social media and writing emails and I really want to get my message out to help people
Gotcha.
like you're helping people to reclaim their purpose, to live their
Yeah.
purpose. That's
Yeah.
my purpose. That
Yeah.
that is what came through to me when my mother died. That
Okay.
is my purpose, is to wake other people up, because when she died is when I woke up. That's why I
Right.
work around the grief, is because when you lose somebody or you have that really traumatic experience,
Mm-hmm.
it's that moment when you really question everything and you actually have the motivation to do something.
Gotcha. Good. That's good. You talk about transforming grief into fuel for one's soul purpose. Can you walk us through how your serve framework makes that possible?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Good.
So serve has got 5 steps, and I'm going to go over briefly all of
Mm-hmm.
them. And then if you
Great.
want to, I can go into depth on some of them. But the
Okay.
number one is S, which is surrender. And that means to
Oh, that's good.
surrender to the process. And so many of us are taught to resist our grief
Mm-hmm.
because our culture doesn't really appreciate it, doesn't like it, doesn't want you to cry,
Right.
wants you to, be a consumer. And
Right.
grief really takes you out of that.
Yeah.
Number two is E, which is engage. That is, when you lose, when you have a significant loss, at the
Uh-huh.
bottom of that loss is a loss of relationship, whether it's a
Mm.
job or it's an identity or it's really a person or a divorce. There is a loss of connection. And
Gotcha.
human beings are social beings. We're actually wired to bond with each other. And so
Mm-hmm.
grief is, it's actually wired into our body. It's the body's way of kind of encouraging us to get back in and reconnect again,
Ooh,
because
that's good.
we survive better in
Yeah.
relationship with people.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good. That's good.
So engage is part of my serve process.
Okay.
I literally focus on that after we deal with the surrendering to the emotions. How do
Mm-hmm.
you get that support you need? Not just but from me, but from other people
Right.
in your community. And how
Mm-hmm.
to identify the people that are right for you. Because grief changes your address book.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's really good. Very true.
Very true. I mean, it really, it's actually great because it really,
Yeah.
really puts who are your real friends, who are really there for you and who aren't.
This is very true. Very, very true. Oh, you bring about so many important issues. But I want you to finish the rest
Yeah.
of the letters because it's very
So,
intriguing.
so
Yeah.
the next one is reframe. So the
Okay.
stories we tell ourselves about
Mm,
our loss can keep us stuck. In fact,
hmm
the whole grief group model is actually detrimental for two
mm.
reasons. One is you bond with everybody else in the group, so you never want to leave. And number two, you tell the story over and over and over again. And each time you tell the story, you re-trigger the grief.
Yes. Yes.
So you
Yes.
actually need to start changing the story,
hmm
what it means to you, and see
hmm
yourself less as a victim and more empowered. And that's what I work with people on, is how do you become re-empowered from
Yes.
loss? And then
Gotcha.
the other two, one is the next one is V, which is for vision. So I don't stop there with, okay, now you're feeling better. Although plenty of people say, oh, I'm good enough now.
Yeah,
But
good enough now.
yeah, I'm good enough now. No, the reason why you have grief in the first place is because you are not living your purpose.
Yeah.
The universe is always nudging us to say, okay, you need to step up. So vision of how can I utilize this experience
hmm
to live my purpose? How is
Right.
it telling me what I need to be doing?
Yeah.
And then finally, the last E is express. In other words, it's not enough to have a vision in your head. You need to put it out there in the universe.
hmm That makes sense. That makes sense. I love everything you just said. But the most important one, because I was clapping my hands, is that we keep saying the story and we keep telling the story and telling the story till it's etched in us and we don't move forward. Then we wonder why we're stuck. It's like taking dirt and there's an opening for you to go, right? But they're just telling the story over and over again. You're shoveling the dirt into the hole, and pretty soon you're like, how do I get out? It's like you're trapping yourself. Talk
Absolutely.
about that. Talk about that being that stuck in telling that story over and over again.
Uh, well, it literally re-triggers because whatever our brain is thinking, our
hmm
body believes it's real. It doesn't really
Yes,
know the difference between what's in our head and what's actually out there. So when
happening.
you relive the experience of somebody
Yeah.
dying, for example, you literally re-triggering all those emotions. And then
hmm
oftentimes with grief, there's both regrets and resentments. And
Oh
so
yeah.
there's other things that kind of take us down into the rabbit hole, take us down deep underground.
hmm
And so part of the reframing is
hmm
changing the resentments and the regrets.
Right. Right.
Let me explain what those two are for our audience here. So
Yes.
um, regrets are what you did or did not do that you
Mm-hmm.
feel bad about. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people have that. Oh, I should have gotten him to see the doctor earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I should have spent more time with them instead of
Mm-hmm.
running around to all these doctor appointments, or regrets there. And then resentments. And this is a hard one
Right.
because let's say somebody's died and you're like, there you are having to take the garbage out, which they used to do, or there they
Mm-hmm.
are,
Mm-hmm.
they now you have to hire somebody to go fix something in your house, and they used to
Yeah.
take care of that, or anything like that. And also that they left you, so it's all this sort of
Yeah.
abandonment. So this is where it comes to complex grief. I work with
Mm-hmm.
people who are stuck, and I might tell you a few stories about that. But
Mm-hmm.
the complex grief is that the current grief is magnified by
Right.
earlier losses that have never been resolved.
Mm-hmm.
And our sense of safety and security is originally programmed in our childhood. So if
Right.
we've experienced like emotional abandonment or
Mm-hmm.
actual abandonment, I run into a lot of women who they lost their father. Their father moved off, divorced,
Yeah.
and so their sense of safety is hugely impacted by that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Is it wrong to have regrets? To acknowledge them?
Well, it's not wrong to acknowledge them, but
Okay.
sometimes they're not realistic. And
Okay.
it helps to have a coach that's going to help you to look at what's realistic and what's not. Of course,
Right.
we make mistakes. We're human beings.
Right. Right.
Learn from them. So, of course, I had a huge regret when my mother died
Of course. Yeah.
because I was sitting in her studio going through papers. She was a toy designer.
Okay.
Actually sold her designs to toy companies, major toy companies in New York, with my aunt. Anyway, we're sitting in her studio and I'm going through papers, the dutiful daughter, trying to clean things up ahead of time. And I pick up one of them, and it's one of her designs, one of her ideas, one of her babies. And I hand it to her and I say, it's a Xerox copy. Do you need this anymore? And she looks at it and she says, oh, I guess I'll never finish that project.
Oh.
For the first time, I understood death and deadline and and that's why life purpose is so important to me, is that in that moment, I realized, oh my God, we die and we only have a limited amount of time and we might run out. But here's the kicker. In that moment, I took the paper back and I said, we don't need to deal with this right now. And that moment of intimacy with my mother that I had craved all my life, I just threw it away.
Yeah.
I had huge regrets, but those regrets often are the motivation for doing things and for telling people. So when my brother died, I got an airline ticket to go back and be with my family. And because I did that, everybody else in that family took that death seriously.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like if you take it seriously so much that you get on an airplane all the way back to the East Coast from California, they're like, oh, okay, I guess this is important.
Yeah, exactly. That's good. The motivator. I like that part about the motivator. So good stuff. I'm going to tell you something. Grief is not processed. We have it, and then we don't process it. I'm working with a client that had 2 deaths in a row, a husband and a child. An older child, and she never stopped to process it until this year, and it's been 4 years. She never stopped. And that brings me to my next question with you. Many high achieving women hide their pain behind their success. How do you help them recognize and release complex grief without feeling like they're losing control?
Well, that is a tricky one, because part of it is that you have to lose control in order to regain control.
That's really good. That is excellent. That's the answer. Yes. I love it.
So women, what they have to realize is they're already stuck. And that's why they come to me, is that they are stuck. They're not moving forward. They are being held back. And so then this is the process. You cannot go around it, cannot circumvent it, cannot tamp it down. And here's the real kicker, is that if you do not process your grief, that means you're literally holding those emotions in with muscular energy.
Oh, that's good.
And that means that you could be setting yourself up for serious illness. Because the fluids in your body are meant to flow, I mean, the lymph system, it's supposed to flow, the blood system, and you're holding it. Sometimes I give people this little exercise where they hold their hands in a fist, and I ask them to hold it, and I only hold it for like maybe 1 or 2 minutes. And then I say, imagine what it would be like to hold that fist for all day.
Years.
And that's what we do. We hold it in.
Yeah, of course we do. Yeah. Because, as a high achieving woman too, as well, I've learned around the way that if I don't take care of the grief, if I don't go through the process of even acknowledge, maybe even a job loss,
Yes.
Even being fired from a job, or maybe your animal dying, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Or,
Oh, big.
or maybe moving from an apartment or a house that you've been in for years, those are all
Absolutely.
losses. And
Very
if
so.
you
Very.
don't process them, if you don't feel them, if you don't go through it and recognize, now I'm in the now, this is different, and do that process that you're talking about, it will come out somewhere else.
That's right.
It will show itself strong in something else, and you'll be like, well, why did I scream when they dropped the pin?
Right.
Why did I scream, and we're having such a great time, and somebody said they don't want to do something. Why did I scream? Because
Right.
of loss.
Right. Right.
Our grief, it has not been, processed.
That's right. That's right. And it needs, and so of course there's the phrase emotion, energy
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
motion. When you
Yeah.
repress that energy, it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
It
No.
doesn't
No.
dissipate. It's
Finds
in there
finds another
waiting.
place.
It's
Yeah.
waiting.
Finds another place, girl. Finds another place to act up. Yeah.
It does.
It's like having when we don't process these things, and I think this is how I feel, is we have an inner child, that hasn't, and some of us have not been healed. So just to think about the things that we hadn't healed from childhood, then we're going to pack this on this kid's back. So guess what this kid's going to do? Act up.
Have a tantrum. Yeah. Yeah.
Have a whole
Have
tantrum.
a tantrum. Yeah. Yeah.
Gonna have a tantrum and show up, behave badly, whatever. Gonna have it. Because you're adding to what's already, has already
Yes.
happened. So grief really needs to be, and I'm glad that you're doing such a work. Grief needs to be processed. And we say this, we hear it, it's written everywhere, it's a thing, but we just don't do it.
Well, most people don't know how to do it.
That's true. A
Most
lot of things
people
that
have
yeah,
never been
exactly
taught.
true. Yeah,
And
you're exactly right.
you have to have an awareness of your body.
Oh,
They put little kids in
That's
these little desks when we're like 4 or 5 years old, and then we're told
yes.
not to speak, not to wiggle, not to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And we are trained to not even pay attention to our bodies. And when our bodies hurt, we're trained to take a pill or to go to the doctors and stop it.
Stuff it. Yep.
And yet the body is telling us all the time,
Mm-hmm.
This is good, this is not good.
Right. And we have to listen to that body. We really do,
Yeah.
because I remember when I was working in a specific role, I knew I was getting burnt out. I just knew it. And I tried to push past it. Well, once you push past it, after knowing and being aware, you push past it, it goes to your body. Because
That's
now
right.
it's tapped into your soul. Your mind is telling you, I'm getting burnt out. You get the first flag. And the
Yeah.
second one, okay, now I'm going to ignore that.
Yeah.
Then it goes straight to your body. And so I'm like, every time I got like this thing in my neck, I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? I can't even move my neck. I couldn't
Yeah.
even move my neck because the stress of it, the thought of it was setting into my neck.
Yeah.
That's when it starts to really affect you. I want to tell you that when it starts like a cracking an egg, the egg is good on the inside, but the minute you start cracking it outside, something changes about everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you have to take care of that. And that's
Yeah.
so important what you do.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So one other thing I wanted to say, I'm giving you all these little great, where the difficulty occurs in your body, because your body's speaking to you, has a meaning. So for example, anything to do with the neck, this is the throat chakra. This is your ability to speak the truth.
That's it.
And then anything that's in the back is from the past.
Yes. Holding on to it, trying to
holding on to, something, some old habit that says, no, I'm just going to push.
And it's fighting to get out.
And it's like, yeah.
It's fighting to get out, get away from you, but you keep holding on to it. It's really true. We do a lot. We do a lot to ourselves. And like you said, it's not enough to hear it floating around out there, the internet, online. What it's the how to, and that's where you come in. Is how
Yes.
do I process this? How
Yes.
do I get this, through to my life?
And it
So
really
let's
helps.
hop. Go ahead. Go
It
ahead.
really helps to have somebody as a witness.
Yes.
And to see what's going on. Sometimes people aren't aware. I can
No.
see what's going on. I can feel what's
Mhm.
going on in you.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's how I help people to learn to listen to their body
Absolutely.
and learn how to express their emotions. And I can teach it very, very quickly.
Absolutely. That's great. That's great. So let's hop on over to your film, Secrets of Life and Death, where it explores some deep truths. What inspired you to tell that story, and how does that tie into your coaching work now?
Well, thank you for asking. So I told you about my mother and that
Hmm.
moment of realization.
Gotcha.
And my mother was, for me, the poster child for living your passion. She had
Gotcha.
6 children and she was running a big toy business. And, just somewhat to the neglect of her children because,
Hmm.
6 children and a busy father and a busy mother.
Yes.
And if she could have regrets, where did that leave me? And I was
Right.
totally, totally tapped
Right.
down. I was
Hmm.
not living my life. I was what so many women are in this culture, a people
Hmm.
pleaser. I was
Yep.
worried about everybody else, and I didn't even know what I needed. I didn't even know
Hmm.
how to tell what I wanted and what I didn't want.
Right.
I would ask other people, well, what are you having at the restaurant? And then I would just have that. I wouldn't even ask, what do I want? So
Right. Yes.
so
You're
she just,
you're so touching things that I'm experiencing right now. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm so
yeah,
excited about
it's
this part.
okay. It's okay. It's great. It's great. So what I decided was I was impressed by this
Hmm.
experience of somebody dying. First, my
Hmm.
father from Alzheimer's 6 months before, and then my mother. So I lost them both in the same year.
Okay.
And I was so impressed by the impact because I was offline emotionally, and boy, did it bring me online. It just that's the real gift is like
Hmm.
you can't really, I mean, some people can hold it down, but boy,
Hmm.
it knocked me over. And I said, okay, I need some healing. And so I think that making my movies was my healing process. I went and I got to interview people and ask them questions, and I learned so much. And so I made 3 films. One was on what it was like to face death. I had
Hmm.
amazing,
Hmm.
amazing people. What was involved in caregiving, because I thought I was like terrible at that. And then finally grieving, what
Yeah.
is that like, and how do you grieve and how do you move forward? And in the process, I joined hospice, and that's when I started doing partner loss support as a
Hmm.
facilitator. But the films are still great. They still are relevant. They're probably a little bit dated because I think the old Bay Bridge was still up back then. There's a shot of that. But other than that, the stories are always real.
Hmm.
They're always relevant.
Oh, absolutely. You can tell
And
a
it took
story with a
me
film.
it
Yeah.
took me a long time. It took me 10
Hmm.
years to do those
Wow.
films. So I recommend that instead you see a coach and you get
Hmm.
back into life sooner rather than make a film, which by
Then
the way,
right.
even if you do it on a shoestring budget,
Just
still
uh-huh.
costs a lot of money.
And I know I've heard that, but that's I can see in the book in what you do. I mean not the book, the film and what you do. I could see how it works in tandem. Pretty cool.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
cool. So in your book, Step Into Your Brilliance, you guide readers toward authenticity, which is one of my favorite things. I teach about it as well.
Yes.
What does brilliance mean to you, and how can women reconnect with it after a major life disruption?
Okay. So brilliance for me is spirit. It's like
Mhm.
that shining light inside of us that we all come into this world with. It's like this is who we really are. This is our higher self. And
Mhm.
and it really emanates. In fact, if you look at early baby pictures of yourself,
Mhm.
you can see it shining in those eyes.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
there. And then we learn that in order to survive, we have to do other things. And
Right.
for me, I learned not to be myself. I learned to be
Right.
what other people wanted of me. And
Absolutely.
so one of the gifts of grief is that it is so intense. If you've lost a really important person, it's so intense that you cannot be anything but authentic.
Oh,
You
wow.
cannot be the old caregiver or supporter or person that everybody turned to, because you don't have the bandwidth. And so that is the first step towards becoming your authentic self, is allowing those feelings and allowing who you really are. And then there's so many ways in which you can discover who you are by that
Right.
experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the light starts to shine through, is that you can't hold it in anymore. And because you realize if somebody's died, oh, right, we only last, we have a finite amount of time.
Yeah, absolutely we do.
And we don't want to die with regrets. That was for me. I did not want to die with regrets.
It's true. How do you resolve regrets? And maybe you can help me with this. Resolve regrets in investing time into people who really didn't get it, like just people that didn't respect it, didn't like it, didn't want it, threw it away. How do you resolve that? Because I know that's a grief in itself.
So how do you deal, let's see if I'm understanding your question. How do you deal with people who reject you for being your authentic self, basically,
Yeah.
is what it is. Okay, so that's hard. The key is to find people who don't. Not to go chasing after the people that are wrong for you.
Right.
And that's part of the transformation, is to see where the gold is. And that's
Okay.
our journey for all of us, is to see who we are meant to serve. And we're not meant to serve people who don't like who we really are.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, because I'm finding, and excuse me, Cooper, go sit.
Is that a chihuahua?
No, he's a smaller dog. Hold on a second. Yeah, he thinks he's a Rottweiler. But anyway, I am going through this transition in my journey, my journey through walking through the libraries, kind of pulling out the things that I see that need healing in my soul. Okay, we're going to cut
Okay,
that part.
right. So say that again.
Okay, so I've been going through, with on my journey, during meditation and going through the recesses of the library. When you go to your third eye and you're kind of walking around, seeing what glows, kind of get a resolve. Ask yourself that question: why is this? How can I resolve this? And one of the things that came out of that library was the regrets of putting my time into people who didn't love me in the past, like recent past. And, like my ex-husbands didn't love who I was. And I spent monumental years that 5 minutes is too much for me. Wasting 5 minutes is too much for me, but years.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to resolve that. Like, how do I, it's bringing up so much resentment for me. So how
Right.
do I resolve that? Like, how do I,
Right.
yes, that was the experience, and I know that I learned something for it, but that's a real feeling. Regret is a real feeling. then it's a real feeling. And it's not enough to say you're not supposed to regret.
No,
It's not. It's just like when you say that, it's almost like saying to somebody who was sexually assaulted, "Oh, that was in the past."
Yeah,
that's the same phrase.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's similar too. I mean, because if
Mhm.
you're with somebody who really doesn't like who you are, it is
Yeah.
abusive, right?
Yeah, it's abusive. So how do you even get? And I think you answered my question now. Is think of it as an abuse. Really think of it as an abuse and start to heal for the loss and the abuse. You just answered me. Fine. Now when you gave me the answer.
Well, the other thing is you really need to release the anger and
Yeah.
the emotion of anger.
Yeah.
You really
Yeah.
need to allow that.
Yes.
So remember what I had said about when people are grieving, they re-trigger the trauma over and over again with their stories. So
Right.
when I work with people, so this is a secret technique I use, I encourage people to express their anger in gibberish so that they allow the emotions out, but they don't re-trigger the anger over and over and over again, because people can get stuck in loops.
Mm-hmm.
So, suppose you have this, this anger. That's why, in some of those, I guess it was Gestalt groups, they would have people beating on pillows because you literally, express it, get it out of your body, because you have to. You cannot start to change the mindset until you release the emotion.
You're right. So I guess I'll be attending some karate sessions and bot kicking.
There you go. Yeah.
Soon as I'm better, because I kept trying to resolve it, be nice.
Yeah.
And it still came out. It's like, I don't have time. It's like, and of course I am a Scorpio by
birth date.
Yes. Oh yes, by the sun. So it's like, oh no patience. No, I have I have patience to a degree, but not for foolishness,
Right.
and it's just like, okay, so I really have to resolve this, because I don't want it to, and I say this all the time, I don't want anything to create cancer in me. So I don't want to give it room.
You don't want to give it any place that they can
No
get a hold of you.
No fire, girl. No fire. So thank you for that answer. I'm so
welcome.
glad. Thank you for that answer, because that's how I'm going to resolve that. Second thing is putting up boundaries, because he is my children's father, who they're old, they're in their 40s.
Right.
I have to maintain a conversation with him? Do I have to maintain a connection?
That's what I would say is stay away until you have released your resentments and your emotions and you see him in a different way.
Yeah.
So ultimately what you want to get to is a point where you see him as a product of his own childhood upbringing. And then it's not about you, it's about him. And when you can get to that place after you've released your emotions, once you can get to a place like that where you see him as just, a poor little boy that was, abused in some way and felt, like out of control with you and felt like he needed to control you,
right?
And change you so that he would feel safe. Then you can say, okay, that's what I did with my parents, because I had issues with them. Is like I saw their story and I said, oh my God, they actually had a way worse story than I did. And then I had compassion. And once you can get to that place of compassion, then you can spend time. And when he says stuff that triggers, you may need to go away for, go off to the bathroom and just release it. And then you can go back again.
Awesome. Well, you done doctorized me, doctor. This has been amazing. This has been good. This has been good for my soul. Thank you so much for being here. How can the world find you? Tell my audience how we can find you.
Okay. So one thing I want to tell them is that I have a complex grief checklist in which you get an assessment to find out whether or not you are struggling with complex grief. And so that's simple, complexgriefchecklist.com.
Oh, nice.
But also, so you can go there and I'll give you an assessment, and then you'll get follow-up emails that will help you to start to implement some of the parts of the SERV system. And if you decide, oh my gosh, I need to speak to her, you will get the link for scheduling a session with me, an introductory call. And they can also go to my website, which is a work in progress with a very slow website designer who is brilliant. And it's there, and it's secretsoflifeanddeath.com. And you can even see the trailers for the films. And I have amazing blogs there about grief and loss.
Awesomeness. Okay. Thank you so much. It's been really wonderful talking about the grief's brilliance, what it could bring about for us with Dr. Michelle. This is Edna White and my esteemed guest. We're going to say goodbye for now.
Bye.